Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it.
Technology, I would hide behind it.
Then you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Master Connector Show. I'm your host, Rob Genovese. In a little bit, I'll bring on my co-host. But listen, if you're just checking in with us here now, we're coming at you live Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we're glad you're here today. But we hope you're joining us every single week, because every week we're bringing amazing, amazing guests, people who are going to give you insights on how to build your business, build your life, expand your connections, create community, you name it. We're bringing the best of the best to the Master Connector Show. As I said, I'm Rob Genovese, and Steve and I, my co-host, we go back about 27 years. And the interesting thing about who we are is we are two former shy guys. We are introverts by our very nature. And when Steve and I started out so many years ago, we had some common mentorship in common as we started out in business. Steve had already owned a pretty successful advertising agency. He already had some success in the world of martial arts, holding several degree black belts across a couple of different disciplines. Myself, I was just clueless. I was still trying to figure things out. But when Steve and I met and we started on our journey with connecting, we didn't really have much going for us in the way of the social part, of that connecting part, of that connecting with people in order to achieve the goals we have in life. But all these years later, not only have Steve and I overcome that shyness. I mean, we're still introverts by nature. That's something that doesn't go away. If you don't know, introversion and extroversion, a lot of people have a misconception about that. Just because you're introverted doesn't mean you're shy. Introversion and extroversion is an energy thing. That means if you're introverted, when you're around social situations, your energy gets depleted and you have to go back and recharge by being on your own. That's the way I am. If I can be in any social situation and really be on, but then I got to retreat and I got to go somewhere alone to recharge. Extroverts, you are recharged by the very fact you are with people. And that is where you are experiencing the highest energy levels. So little teaching right there. But look, we are master connectors today. Steve is the master connector. And as I said, Steve is highly accomplished. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's a business owner. Steve has over 26,000 followers on LinkedIn. He is making things happen and he's connecting people. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on to kick off the show. Please help me welcome the master connector, Mr. Steve Spiro.
Well, I appreciate that, Rob
Come on,
G.
Steve.
Great to be on.
Bring it on. There he is.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. It's good to have you on. Good
What's up,
to be
Steve?
on with you. And I know you had a little bit of a nice stint in overseas. So that was cool. I'm sure you're back and yeah. So are we getting a little backlash here? Okay. I'm not sure what's going on here. Can you guys hear me? All right. Well, I don't know if that's Rob's on his side, but the show must go on. Technology is great. But what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And I'm just excited. Yep, I got a little thumbs up from Mike, so I guess we're good to go. But yeah, it's awesome. I'm just blessed to be on here. Yesterday was a crazy day for me. You talk about being depleted. I had a video crew. We're redoing the sizzle reel as a speaker. And it was a wild run. So it's exciting. I can't wait to see the finished product. If you need an amazing videographer and still photographer, I got a great recommendation for you. But anyway, like I said, the show must go on, and I'm sure Rob will be back in a minute. But I want to talk about creating true human connection. And so, speaking of connection, as you this is the Master Connector Show. So I know we have a bunch of people that are coming on here. John, good to see you again, sir. Yolanda, it's awesome to have you on here, as always. She's amazing. John's kind of new to the community, but exciting to be. I actually know John because I met I was challenged to meet 3 strangers every day. And I met his son in the gym, and we exchanged contact information, had a great conversation, and John said, "Hey, I want to speak to that guy," and so we wound up getting on a call, and it's pretty awesome. But yeah, and Yolanda is, yes, you are one of our followers, and yes, the show must go on, Yolanda, for sure. But yeah, let's talk about true connection, right? So creating true connection is about more than just exchanging words. It's about authentically engaging with others on a more, on a deeper level, right? It involves listening with empathy, understanding without judgment, and being fully present in the moment. Genuine connections are built upon shared experiences, mutual respect, and a willingness to be vulnerable. So important here, in my opinion, right? I gave a talk yesterday when I was being videoed about that, about vulnerability, and in our weakness, there's power. And we could talk more about that. But by fostering open communication, cultivating empathy, and embracing authenticity, we can create meaningful connections that enrich our lives and those of others, transcending superficially, transcending superficial interactions to form bonds that endure the test of time. So we're gonna have a blast here today. It's gonna be awesome. I know Rob is back on here, so if you're ready to get on here and to have him introduce our amazing guest, I want you to type in the hashtag Let's Go, and we're gonna have Rob G do the introduction. I'm glad to have you back, Rob. We've been having some fun with technology lately, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. Thanks, Steve. It's good to be back. Listen, everybody, as I said, we always bring in a great guest, and today is no exception. I'm going to introduce him. Mr. Mike Montague is a multi-hyphenate thought leader at Sandler, where he hosts the popular How to Succeed podcast, Sandler Summit, and other live sales training events. He's the author of LinkedIn, The Sandler Way, and numerous courses on sales and leadership for Sandler, HubSpot, Cornerstone, and more. Mike has performed in front of thousands of audiences, from 1 to over 10,000 people, including opening for Billy Idol, Frankie Valli, the Kansas City Chiefs, as a DJ, hosting game shows for Meta, Google, Hanes, T-Mobile, Subway, and speaking at Uber for Business, HubSpot, Thermo Fisher, and many more. Mike's mission is to help organizations rediscover the power of humans in a world of AI. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Mike Montague. Come on, Mike. How you doing?
Hey, we did it. This is amazing. Talking about true connection on a shaky Wi-Fi hotel, free Wi-Fi connection is going to be ironic. I feel like we missed April Fool's Day by about 48 hours. It would have been a great show.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, just a testimony to you, and I know you're a man of your word, and you said, "Hey, I was committed. You got something that came on the calendar, and you're like, I'm still going to do it." So I appreciate you, Mike, big time. And it was fun being on your podcast. I know that launched just this week, and I've gotten some amazing reach outs from people that heard me on your show, and it's been a blast getting to know you, and I'm excited to see where this goes. But we're going to dig into this, and I want to get into some questions here. So to me, if you read the book Simon Sinek, Start with Why, right? It's all about why, right? So I want to ask this, Mike, why do you say that people like to connect with unique people?
Well, I think there's several things here that are really interesting. Number one is that people like to connect with people, right? We think that we follow brands or things like that on social media. It doesn't really happen. What we're really looking for is personalities, and you connect and interact with other human beings. And when those humans are interesting, when they're playful and fun, it becomes even cooler for us. So, it's for us several reasons, but if we think about it, like as humans, we enjoy a sort of movement between chaos and order. We like this randomness, this spontaneity, this uniqueness that captures our attention and makes us think in interesting ways. It's sort of a pattern interrupt for our brain. And you mentioned introverted and extroverted earlier. I consider myself a little bit of an ambivert too. That too much of that can be a bad thing, right? We don't want to live in total chaos. We don't want somebody that's completely crazy out there that's threatening us of like, hey, is this insane? Or am I here? Like, that'll get our attention for a second, but we don't feel comfortable. On the other hand, if somebody's a robot and they're just reading off a script, and maybe you got a cold caller calling you up and they're just reading down their cold call script, that's not interesting either, right? It's annoying, it's interruptive, and there's no real true connection there. But when somebody is open and honest and vulnerable, and they have a unique story, and they're listening or telling your story, and they're telling their own unique human experience, that's where a real true connection comes from, in my opinion. And that's why I think it's so important.
Yeah, I have to jump in there for a second, because as you were talking, Mike, about the connection, and of course, there's always the stories to help kind of bring people into our world a little bit. But I know when I'm talking with somebody, one of the greatest skills I ever learned was the skill of listening, active listening, not passive. Because I know people that can repeat what you just said, but they didn't really get what you said. And so the key is in the response. When you say something and I respond very appropriately to the thing you just said, there's more of a connection. I've talked with people and I've said something, and they go, yeah. And they just respond with something that comes out of left field. Like, did you even hear what I said? So
well, there's even scientific research behind this. And that's what I love digging into with Playful Humans and with Sandler is there's a ton of psychological research, but physiological biology, that our bodies release chemicals and our mirror neurons are triggered when somebody does that. When you feel a true human connection with somebody else, it feels different than if you're responding to an AI robot, or if you're not in person and you are in person, or if they're just parroting back what you said, compared to like responding and somebody creates empathy and you understand that they see you and they hear you. It actually creates a different physiological and biological response, which triggers those other connections and relationships that we can build on from there.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that. And I want to dig into this playful. So just type in hashtag playful community. And just love everybody's participation. We appreciate you big time. Because this is your show. It's not our show. It's all about you guys, right? So we want you in here and participating. So kind of maybe dig in a little bit. In your opinion, what distinguishes connections formed through playful interaction from those established through more conventional means?
Good. There's two separations we need to make. One is the difference between work and play. People think that they're opposites, that you're working or you're playing, but they're not. Play is the fun uncle of work. The opposite of work is laziness or sloth and sitting around not doing anything. But you can accomplish a lot being playful. You can accomplish a lot, create a lot of genuine connections and bonds and friendships through play. So it's not a frivolous activity there first, as one of the highlights. The other thing is the difference that's connected in playful activities versus work. So when we're stressed out, when we're threatened and we're really trying to work hard at something, our brain shuts down and it focuses on the right answer or the goal we're trying to accomplish, and our creativity is shut off. So this is, again, a biological response that if we look back at human nature, we go back 10,000 years in the jungle. If a lion jumps out at you, you're not thinking of like, how can I make friends with this thing? And you're freaking out. You're thinking, what's the one way that I can get out of this situation alive? And that same response is triggered in your brain and your body when you're stressed out at work. So you're thinking, on the Zoom call, or how do I make my sales this month? Or I got to get this accomplished. And it's eliminating your creativity. It's tensing up your body. The other person feels it. Your tone and your brain and your behavior all becomes about finding a right answer rather than finding a creative way to connect with another human being. When we're playful, we're loose, we're able to relax all of our muscles, our brain. We can lower our shields and our defense mechanisms, and we can really enjoy the moment for what it is rather than trying to find a way out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I can say that you using the word playful, which, by the way, practically nobody uses that word, right? Because it may not sound serious enough. And there's this kind of misunderstanding that if you have too much fun, then you're not really serious about business. You know, I spent 25 years in corporate, and if you laughed, you know, you got reprimanded. If you were smiling, they told me to stop. If you can believe this, Mike, they told me to stop smiling because, you know, it's making
horrible.
people feel like that they don't have to work. And so when you said playful and you talked about work and play, I remember hearing Richard Branson say years ago, and it really hit me. He said, somebody was asking me in an interview, you know, what do I think about the work and play balance? And in his genius, he said, there is no work and there's no play. He said, it's all just living. And when I heard that, I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense, because I wanted to work hard at playing and play hard at working. I wanted to enjoy work. And if I met people that are too stiff, I didn't want to do business with them, because I'm like, if I don't enjoy being with you, why am I doing this? It can't just be about money. And so you use the word playful, and, you know, my wife and I have been together for 32 years. And one of the things that when people say, like, wow, how do you guys still seem like you're in love and like you really love being with one another? I said, we've always remained playful. So like the little kid in me and the little kid in her are still there, being playful, because you get stamped with this adult thing and then you're supposed to be serious.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah. I love that you use that phrase.
It's great.
I think nailed that for sure. And that inner child is something that I think is so important. And that's really, I think, our true selves, right? We all put on these masks of adulthood and what we're trying to do. But when we connect playfully, we connect with that inner child. And really big people are just, you know, 12-year-olds in grown-up people's clothes with gray hair or no hair. All right.
I want to just throw in what Vern said here, and it's good to see JD and Vern here from our friends in our networking group. But human beings are wired to connect. I love that, and I want to go back a little bit to, you know, you were talking about being in the jungle and being you know, scared and all that. And listen, I was challenged to meet 3 strangers every day in the jungle of New York. So talk about being terrified. I mean, you know, you're afraid that, you know, I was afraid I was going to get kidnapped or killed by talking to strangers. So, but you know, you're right. Now, I'm you know, in the DISC personality profile, I'm more like a DC and a little S. I got 0 I. So playful is sort of not in my vocabulary normally, but I have learned to become a little bit more fun, a little bit more relaxed. And I think that's the bigger point here, is being relaxed and comfortable. And so this way you can actually allow your creative juices to flow and allow people to bond and connect in a more human way. Because that's really what we're talking about. I know Robbie put up in just before, but our topic today is, you know, creating true human connection. And that's what we're really talking about today. So that's awesome. So I want to dig in a little bit here. And so your community, type in #enhance. Can you, you know, share your, you know, some experiences or examples illustrating how playful individuals contribute to reducing stress and enhancing others' self-esteem?
Well, there's so much research, and I wanted to go into this about companies, because you talked about, you know, sort of that toxic hustle work culture, which does work, but there's different types of work, right? If you're playing a sport, you need to sort of be aggressive, and you need to train a lot, and you need to work hard. But if you're trying to write a movie, that may not be the right tactic. You may need to be creative. You may need to go get inspiration from other people. You may need to hear somebody's intimate, you know, emotional story of their life. If you're going to write a good movie, that's different than hard work and hustle, which may be needed as well, right? There's a certain amount of activity or behavior that's required for success in anything. I think people have missed that there's also emotional work and there's intellectual work that needs to be done. And those need to be treated a little bit differently. And when you do that type of work, you really enhance relationships and cultures, human connection, your creativity and innovation in your company. And there's studies that show that playful companies, they have obvious things like lower turnover, better engagement from their employees, better outcomes, but they also get then better customer service, which means they get higher net promoter scores, which means longer clients. They have less turnover, longer client relationships. They get higher profitability. Salespeople that are playful sell 37% more than the ones who are not. And so there's genuine business outcomes to being playful, being unique, and connecting with other human beings. And I think it's enhancing all over. And I've seen virtually no side effects. Maybe a side effect is you took slightly more emotional risk than you would have by being serious, or you may make an occasional mistake, but in my opinion, you're going to do those anyway. So you might as well have fun while making your mistakes rather than stressing yourself out and still making the mistake anyway.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah. So let's dig even deeper, right? Let's talk about this, right? So hashtag depth community, right? The EPTH. How can you foster a culture of playfulness, positivity, and playfulness positively impact durability and the depth of interpersonal connections? That question didn't come out very well, but
I
think
got
you
you
get
though, because this is what I really wanted to talk about today is the true connection. So there's three different types of connections. One is just a fake connection. And I think a lot of that you see on social media and stuff. If you're connected with somebody on LinkedIn, doesn't mean you have any type of actual connection or relationship with them. It's sort of fake engagement, likes and views and stuff that are not real, and you don't know anything about that other person. That's just not real true connection. And in fact, it shows that like social media and Facebook lowers actual human connection, because now you're not calling your cousin to see what's up with their kids, you're just seeing their photos. And so it actually reduces our relationships and our social ability. Then we have the sort of like partial engagement, partial connections, where it's maybe your company scheduled a happy hour or a mandatory all company meeting or something. And you're like, okay, this is the team building event. We all have to go do team building today. And we're sort of in, but we're not in. And you can't really force fun. Anybody that's ever planned a wedding or a big New Year's Eve party knows that it's got to be organic. There's a difference between true connection and forced fun play dates with other coworkers, right? So what I wanted to really highlight is thinking about how you and your company or in your work and your team can develop some real, true connections. And those happen when we opt in to these. It has to be freely chosen. And so we say, hey, we're going to put a tiger team together to brainstorm solutions for this problem. Anybody, regardless of title, department, pay grade, anything, we're going to put together a team of people really interested in caring about this problem and want to come up with creative solutions. And we're going to get this group together, and we're going to create an environment and an atmosphere of fun that we're going to do this instead of in a blank conference room and square rooms and square walls. We're going to go out to, a baseball game or a park, or we're going to meet somewhere unusual. It just breaks those patterns and habits and allows us to lower our inhibitions. And then I think the third part of this that's interesting is that I gave us a challenge of brainstorming. We need to be able to collaborate together and go through some form of struggle. The difference between sort of recreation and productive playfulness is that there's some sort of goal to it, right? Sometimes it's even hard to connect on a holiday or something with your family. Nobody's really doing anything. You're just hanging out by the pool on a vacation, relaxing. Though that can be an environment for in-depth conversations, but if we're trying to get a team to work together, this common goal and common challenge really brings people together. When we overcome something together, when we solve something together, especially when we get through tough times, shared trauma and shared challenges really bond true connections with other people.
Yeah, you were talking just earlier at the start of this little segment, you're talking about true connection. And I think what people miss a lot of the times is the nuance of what connection means. Yes, we all have LinkedIn connections, and we have actually followers, and then we
Mhm.
have relationships. And one of the things I learned a long time ago, Mike, which I think you're really getting at here, is when it comes to connections, relationships come in degrees. You
Yeah.
and I just met, so we have a start of a relationship. You know me, I know you. I know a little bit about me. You probably know a little bit less about me, only because I introduced you. But until that goes further, until we start sharing more vulnerable things, more personal things, the relationship doesn't get any deeper. It doesn't become closer. And that's where the human connection really comes in that how well do you get to know somebody? So out of quantity doesn't necessarily come quality. And you've really got to work at that. And look, we're talking with Mike Montague today, audience. We're talking about creating true human connection. We only got a minute or two left, but if you got a question for Mike, because look, this stuff is nuanced. This is not easy stuff. It doesn't come naturally. And Mike's an expert at it. So put your questions in the comments right now. Maybe before we head out, we'll get a chance to ask. I'm going to turn it back over to Steve. I think you have one more thing to talk about, right?
Yeah, I do, and I love where this is going because again, we're the Master Connector Show, and it's all about connection. So I love that, and I went from being this guy that was super closed off, very transactional, very superficial, afraid to share some of my insecurities and vulnerabilities because when you're broken and wounded, that's all, you're only in protection, self-preservation
Yeah.
mode. So I really love the fact that we're talking about this because once I freed myself from being vulnerable and authentic, confidence grew tremendously, connections became strong. So I want to ask you, because, to me, it's not just about an initial connection, right? But it's building long lasting connections, right? Enduring connections. So community, type in hashtag lasting, LASTING. And here's the question as we close, and I'd love you to bring it home for us, Mike. Okay, no pressure.
You bet.
Reflecting on your own experiences, can you share memorable instance where you've created a strong and enduring connection, and not
I
including
shared, I shared a lot of the reasons why we create these in my last answer there, but the specific examples I think of are hardship. When I had a fraternity brother pass away in the house while we were there, just had a random heart attack and died. I think people that were around and going through that experience together, they're the difference. Those are the people that you don't forget for the rest of your life. And same thing on the high end. When I won a state championship in soccer and the team, I can remember everybody on that team 30 years later. It's because we accomplished something difficult together and we spent enough time to build trust. So maybe trust is the last word that we haven't mentioned here today. It's one thing to lower those walls once in a conversation and create a moment of connection. It's another to lower those walls permanently and really know that you can trust somebody to have your best interest at heart. And I think that's when they go from being a follower or a superficial connection to somebody in your inner circle, that from here on out, anytime they can just call you up and say, hey, it's me. And you're going to pick up the phone because like, and trust that person.
Yeah, fantastic, Mike. Fantastic. Well, listen, audience, you've gotten a ton of value here in a very short period of time. We'd love to be talking with Mike for another hour or two to get to the bottom of this stuff. A lot of people need to hear what Mike has to say. But Mike, I believe you have an offer for our audience.
Yeah, one thing we didn't hit is that everybody's playful in different ways. And you've mentioned introverted and extroverted, and Steve mentioned his disc styles and stuff. There's also playful styles. So if you go to playfulhuman.com/quiz, there's a personality quiz there where it could mean a lot of different things. I think sometimes people think, well, I'm not very playful because I don't like to play board games with family, or I don't like to create art and wear silly hats or something. It's like, that's not what we're talking about. I'm not the bow tie wearing clown guy with the squirting flower. You can explore. You can play sports and athletics. You can move your body. You could be a learner. You could be a joke teller. You could enjoy being a producer, which I think is what a lot of us are, where you are the host of the party, not the life of the party. And that is a completely different thing for people. And I think it's really fun to discover what you are and what your teammates are and then you can connect more authentically with the way they want to be connected.
Awesome. We appreciate you. Just if you will, best way that our community can reach you, Rob, as we're closing down here.
Yeah, do that. Mike D. Montague on LinkedIn is great. How to Succeed podcast and Playful Humans podcasts out there. Go check out Steve this week on the How to Succeed podcast. 3,000 people have already downloaded that show, so go check it out. We love it.
Awesome. Excited. Well, we're going to put you in the green room. We appreciate you, Rob, big time. We'll see you soon. Yep. And community, that's awesome. So, Rob, I'll turn it back to you, sir.
Yeah, sure. So look, here on the Master Connector Show, we're taking our culminated knowledge, our accumulated knowledge here, not just Steve and I, but of course, great guys like Mike Montague. You learn from people who have overcome the adversity that maybe you have. And that's why we bring you a lot of great people. Mike may say something that relates to you, but somebody else might not get a lot out of it because of it's through the lens and perspective of our own situation. And Steve has a great unique story, and Steve has written a book. He's put it in book form because what he's learned, a lot of people need to hear. So I'm going to put it in the chat right now, but this is a link to Steve's book, The Tao of a Master Connector, the way an introvert became a master connector. So if you want to be a master connector, you can't be the one because he is the one, but you can be a one. I'm a master connector. Mike's a master connector. It's not a big thing, but you do need to learn the things from the people who have done it. So pick up Steve's book. Highly recommend it. And great job, Steve. Thanks for putting out that book so somebody people can learn from it.
Yeah, you're awesome, Rob. And hey, listen, community, we just appreciate you big time. Make sure you tune in next week because we're going to have an amazing show on the way to successful life with Harsha Dandamudi. If I'm saying it right, I hope I am. So, but it's gonna be a great show. Rob is going to be out of pocket, so I'm doing this alone. So I need as much support as possible. So, love for you to make sure you join us and just make sure you share this out, like it. Tell your community about it. Make sure you're sharing this because I believe if it added value for you, it's going to add value for people in your life. So, a lot of we look for ways, especially if you're in business development, ways to add value. That's another way to touch people without like trying to say, hey, you ready to buy? Well, hey, maybe send them this link to the show, and hey, I got this great guy I follow, and guys that we follow and show that we follow, whatever. But we look forward to seeing you next week. So, and if you're interested in hosting an episode, go to the masterconnector.show, and it's going to be awesome that you can you could see what it would take to the value of hosting or I guess what's the word I'm looking for around there? Host or whatever the show. So we'll just leave it at that. But I want to close down with this. Listen, and I've been telling like little stories here as we close, right? So, known for his humility and warmth, Nelson Mandela forged true human connections where he went. Through his compassion and forgiveness, he not only healed a nation, but also inspired the world to strive for unity and understanding. His legacy continues to shine brightly, reminding us all of the power of genuine connection and the ability to be a beacon of hope for others. Community, let's make sure to be the light. See you next week. And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.